Let's do that right now. Yeah, I really should remember to always start YouTube because I don't know how I'd be forgetting that. Anyways, okay, get me hyped to play PoE again. Well, there's a few insane teasers we've gotten so far from the Minion archetype. There is a build I have been personally PoBing. There have been stuff that has been data mined that is insane. Potentially, nothing is guaranteed, of course, but it's potentially insane. And there's a lot of things I can talk about before we actually get started on the reacting. And I think that's what I'm going to do, which means we're not going to finish reacting today. That being said, I am ready to continue streaming. The reason I say this is I actually wanted to start streaming earlier, but I've been so busy between work and making videos and editing and all of that I just haven't had the time. But I think I can fit stream like today, tomorrow, and Friday, of course, because like I'm gonna be live like an hour before launch, maybe 30 minutes, because I actually only took Friday as a half day, so I'm technically only going to be live after 12. So, anywho, is the build perma minions the build that I am going to be league starting, or just in general? Because I can the one I've been most hype about PoBing, yes, it is in fact perma minions, but the one that I am league starting is not. All right, so first things first, let's start with the teasers that we have that you guys need to be caught up on in case you haven't. So firstly, there was this guy right here. There was this teaser, if I can find it. Oh, I haven't even seen this one. So let's start here. Let's start the one I haven't seen.
Hi, I'm Mark Roberts.
Launch Twitch drops. Is the build perma minions? No, the one I'm most hyped. No.
Game director.
But I think I've already answered that. Why is it so loud?
Path of Exile Mirage.
Oh, it changed the command. Let's go. What is this helmet though? What is this helmet? Because this is change of command. Is this? What on earth? Wait, hold up. Hold the phone. Why would this person be wearing... I assume this is a new helmet. Because... Do you think this is a new helm? Because I recognize things of command anywhere.
We're running a week of Twitch drops, as well as a supporter streamer campaign. During the first week of launch, you'll be able to claim the Mirage Quicksilver Flask effect by watching your favorite creators in the Path of Exile category.
This is going to be my only Quicksilver effect, I think.
For 3 hours. Support your favorite creators by gifting 2 subs or subscribing to 2 channels in the Path of Exile category to claim the imprisoned Jinn merchant. Blur into the...
Wait, so is that going to be a shop? Question mark? It could be. It said merchant, so I assume it's going to be replacing Faustus? Or skin for Faustus.
Blur into the astral plane with the Mirage Quicksilver Flask effect. Salah, formerly a Mariketh merchant,
oh yeah, it is.
was sentenced to eternal servitude.
Oh shit, identify items? So that means it's gonna be beside my stash, because like I've been looking for the right reason to have an identify NPC beside my chest, but like I'm not about to bring Helena anywhere closer. Screw that.
And selling counterfeit artifacts in Keth.
A prize fit for the markets.
Salah was sealed in a barrier and contained within this chest, and must now manage your shop and facilitate your trades on the currency exchange for all eternity.
Yeah, well, I'll take it.
Is how the merchants of old grew wealthy.
Both of these items are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way.
And then they
They'll
use
also
Holy
be
Strike.
immediately available for use in Path of Exile 2, where the Mirage Quicksilver Flask effect will apply to your sprint and dodge roll. Thanks for watching and have a great league start.
All right. That one I hadn't seen. Now for the actual teaser we were supposed to start with. What is this? There is also a new Searing Bond. +1 to maximum number of summon totem per maximum power charge. Totems last 8 seconds, deals base fire damage. Modifiers to spell damage applied to this skill's damage over time effect. Summons a totem which uses this skill, and then burning applied by detonation. Deals 30% more damage per totem detonated. Very well. Summons a totem that casts a beam at you and each other totem you control, dealing burning damage to enemies caught in the beam. Enemies near either end of a beam also suffer burning damage. Reaching maximum active totem count will cause all totems from this skill to detonate, applying the same burning. So basically, the way I read this is you want to have you want to have your maximum totem count and your maximum summonable at a time to be the same, and you want to somehow scale that. But the truth of the matter is that means you're going to need stuff like, I have Victory here already. You're going to need, of course, multiple totem support. That will give you +2. Yeah, it summons 2 at a time. So then now you're summoning 2 totems instead of 1, and then you go for the other gem. Is it Rain or Splinters? I think. No, this is additional projectiles. Is there anything else that applies that increases this number? I wonder. I feel like there isn't. So you kind of would just have to either make your max just 2, or you have to, or you use spell echo like unleash. But I feel like unleash is still bad because it might not be bad actually. I don't know. Where is totem? There. We'll look at support gems. Nothing. Uniques. Where are the uniques? Where are the uniques at, my G? Additional projectiles. Yeah, there's nothing actually. But now that I look at this, this says per totem detonated. So you want all of them to still be Searing Bond. Okay. I mean, okay. Now that I'm hopefully done getting sidetracked, hopefully, can't promise anything, we can actually go to the, where on earth is this video? There, this guy. So one of the big teasers we have gotten as a Minion community, if you will, is this guy right here. We're going to take down the volume because, like, for some reason it's just loud. Like, everything is loud. This support, I assume, will be used with The only way I can see anybody using this is if you use the solution of this flesh, because life and ES are going down. We don't have full mind over matter. You can technically use full mind over matter. There are ways to get to 100% damage taken from mana instead of life and ES, I think. Just it's a very niche setup that I don't think would be very accommodating of the what will be needed to make the Val skill that insane. But it's an option, I guess. But yeah, the solution of the flesh or 100% damage from mana will both solve this as a problem. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to get blipped into non-existence. But this is the bread and butter. This is the main, the gem of the hour, if you will. This gem looks insane. This gem can work multiple ways, but essentially being able to get 30% more maximum number of minions from supported skills is just an insane support gem that I thought we would never see in this game. But somehow, some way, GGG have done it, and we're going to get this next season. Now, granted, this is probably going to be fucking expensive because holy shit, everybody's going to want this. Now, for a bit of context, this is an exceptional gem, and this is a level 3. Now, there are ways to increase the level past 3, like corrupting, which means this is not going to be the maximum number. Now, if you get this even to just as small a number as 40%, now all of a sudden, if you go from having 5 support specters in any build that was using 5 support specters to 7 support specters, gaining 2 support specters is an insane amount of utility slash damage for any setup, especially if it's a setup that actually has really good support specters. Or even better, it's stupid defenses, because now you can just suddenly get 2 more affliction specters. So now instead of 1 support gem, you now have 2 extra auras just for free. Like, the potential on this gem, and that's just on this support specter, plus global minion level to gems. Is there plus global minion level to gems? This is not a skill gem, this is a support gem. So like wand will not apply to it. Neither will helmets. Like Wraith Lord will probably not. I believe those specifically state minion skill gems. The sources of plus to level that you can get here are, I think I theorized I can get to level 9, and how you would do that is you corrupt it to level 4. You could use it on a Diala, so that's level 6. You could proceed to have these Dialas double corrupted with plus 2 minions, which takes it to level 8, and then plus 1 level of all socketed gems, which takes it to level 9. That is a theoretical maximum level this can have. That being said, we don't know what the growth scale is going to look like on a per level scaling. It could, I personally am on the pessimistic side. I think it's going to be like 2% per level, but like I know other people because like I know other people that are more optimistic, because this is an exceptional gem, and exceptional gems tend to not have diminishing returns, and they tend to be like a stable growth per level. So a lot of other people are theorizing like it might be starting at 20 at level 2 and then going up by like I don't know, 9 per level or something like that. I don't know, we'll see. I'm thinking of it for Carrion plus zombies with Squire. Like that is another use case where it's going to be pretty nice. Now, granted, for DPS minions, if you're like for Carrion and zombies, there's one thing to note, and that is if you can fully utilize the exact percent the gem has, then if you go for a level 3 gem, it's not that insane, right? It is okay, it's good, but it's not that insane, because this is going to be 30% more minions. So like if you're at 100 minions, that'll take you to 138, which is, but it's also replacing a support gem, so you're getting quantity over quality. Whereas if you were to use a 30% more damage support gem, you'd still get the same amount of damage, just less minions. Where this will start pulling like ahead of the pack in terms of support gems is for minion builds that really care about numbers. So think poison as an example. Think, like I said, support specters, minions that care about the number you have, because each number makes a meaningful difference. If there was any effect that scaled based off of the maximum number of minions aside, then like that would also be a reason to go for this gem, because there's other benefits besides just the raw damage. Because if you're getting this just for the raw damage, then other support gems can compete. But if it's for the damage, and now we're talking. So there's a lot of potential when it comes to congregation support. It's an insane amount of support, and like my jaw literally dropped when I saw this. Like I said, I never expected GGG to make a gem like this. I never in a million years would have guessed that they would do this. That can up the gem level by 4 levels. I want to see that. So that I assume that is like plus the level of all, +2 to support gems, +1 to deck to intelligence gems, and +1 to all socketed gems, something like that. That would be the only way it would work, I think. But like, I think that's actually possible. +2 minions, +2 socketed. You would have to take this to standard for that, though. Wait, is this is not limited to the season mechanic, right? It's exceptional gems. It's a base game that got changed, so it would probably just be available. It would just be expensive on release, on launch, but you can get it. But yeah, I think from what I've seen so far, other exceptional gems like current exceptional gems include enlighten them. They cap out at level 10, so this might also cap out at level 10. You know, so we'll have to see. Well, of course, if you give it a +4 dagger, all of a sudden it becomes level 8. If you can find 2 extra levels from somewhere, I don't know where you would get it from. The rune graph specifies non-exceptional, so it wouldn't work. I mean, level 8 is already insane to begin with. But I can't think of any of that generic level scaling for that gem. Yeah, I don't think there are any. I don't think there are any. You want to link it to me? Like as a screenshot? Nah, I'm not online. I just have the game open for ambience, if you will. But yeah, one thing I find awkward, I guess if you want to call it awkward, is why did they show zombies going from 11 to 14? That is what confuses me. Because going from 11, if 11 was the theoretical max before the support gem, there shouldn't be a universe where it is 14, where it adds 3. It should be adding 4. However, now this is where the second portion, how it scales, might come into play. It might not be the global maximum being increased, it might be the gem maximum being increased. And if it's the gem maximum, then like support specters, for example, they get level 1 base, level 13 you get an extra specter, level 25 you get an extra specter. So that is let me know what you think. Sure, that is 3 specters, so that will give us an extra 1 specter, but not an extra 2 specters, regardless of the global maximum. So this is a way it could work, and if that is the case, then it might be that you get an extra, like 2 extra zombies from the tree, so you're going from 9 on the gem or 8 from the gem, depending. And if you're going from 8 from the gem and you multiply that by 1.38, suddenly you now have the my brain isn't working. This is 3, right? Yeah, you have the 3 that they increased by, so 11. So that's why they go from 11 to 15, so it's 3. So that is also a possibility on how it could work. Anyways, let's see the dagger. Jesus Christ. Oh, so it's a, oh, that is nasty. It's a 12 link dagger that has +2 to level of socketed this, as well as +2 to socketed gems. what modifier is the plus socketed? Oh, it's here. It's a crucible mod. Holy shit. It also has minions have flat crits, reduced effect of on your minions. It doesn't matter. Wait, so it has wait. So this 6-link dagger has 13, 14, 15 links essentially. Almost 16 links, if not 16 links. And now with the new lead mechanic, you can get the 17th. God damn. Okay. There are definitely items on standard, that's for fucking sure. Every single time I look at the standard item, I just think, God damn. That is always my reaction without fail. It's like, Jesus Christ. What is this? But yeah, that is stupidly strong. Congrats. This is another word within PoE. Oh, I bet. Like, I don't even slightly doubt it. This Void Shocker is probably going to be a low-key but very underrated support gem right now. Like, I think this one is slipping on that radar, and this could actually be a very, very healthy way to scale AoE. Or wave clear rather than melee splash. People are just not talking about it, but I feel like that is going to be something that'll come up at some point. Anyways, that is, we've seen that teaser now. There was one more teaser, I think. What was the teaser? We've seen the support gem. Now I guess I could talk a bit about, yeah, I remember now. Okay, I remember the second one. It is actually here, PoEDB. We just go straight to the homepage. We see, oh, they removed some of the logos here. Question mark. Anyways, Renan, thank you for the follow. How you doing? And welcome. Where would I find this? Bloodline Ascendancy class. It's not here. It should be. All right, we'll just search for it. Saresh Bloodline. Basically, this is the boss from the league mechanic, the one that was teased, that we saw there looking like he had a minion node here. And we weren't wrong. It does have a minion node, but that minion node is it's something. So the minion node, let's just start out with saying it is not bad, right? It is not bad. But it is hard to justify. What do I mean? Well, for one, this is the minion node here after his ritual, and you will see damageable minions. So first things first, the minion has to be damageable. Deal 30% increased damage for each second they have been alive, up to 150%. So that is, it just needs to be alive 5 seconds, and it's a max DPS. Insane. That's a lot of increased damage for most setups. This is stupid amount of damage. And just to throw hypotheticals out there, this is what the high budget of my dumb blow setup looks like. By the way, this is probably what I'm going to be league starting, but this is what the high budget looks like. If I were to throw in a minions deal 150% increased, let's just take that all back. Why are you slow? Increase damage. You just gain like 11 mil. So it's a lot of damage. It's a lot. But then you have the downside. Damageable minions take 5% increased damage for each second they have been alive, up to a max of 50%. So that would take 10 seconds to ramp up. Now, as you might imagine, that means if you realistically want to play this in any usable capacity, you're going to want to have the maximum uptime on basically both of them, because you don't plan on having your minions die unless your build wants that. But I would say this is kind of counterintuitive for minion instability builds, because they don't really want their minions living for 5 seconds, so they can't take the full benefits of the upside. So kind of a counterintuitive, though they do enjoy the downside as well, so there's that. But anyways, so you would want to have a minion that is tanky enough somehow to mitigate this downside, because remember, this is increased damage taken. It is a multiplier on all damage your minions are currently taking, and as such will make them sweat, like properly sweat. So let's just say you're gonna need to actually think about this. You can't just slap this on any minion build and call it a day, or your minions will die. Now granted, there are ways to mitigate this. Like someone on my Discord pointed out earlier today, Hallowed Monarch is one of these routes you could potentially go, because Hallowed Monarch comes with like a 75% less damage taken once you link the target, but then they have to be linkable and not temporary minions and all that jazz. That is one solution. I would not go Hallowed Monarch just for this. I don't think this node is strong enough to change my build to like a Hallowed Monarch or anything like that. That is one way you could do it. I plan on using this, but it's on a very niche setup, and the reason I can use this is because I plan that setup is basically Chaos Golemancer essentially, and the idea here is by using it, it doesn't matter too much if they die or not, because I have Liege of the Primordial anyways, and because I have Liege of the Primordial, they are going to be resummoned, so if they die, it's kind of fine. That being said, I do have Spectres and I do have Guardians, but that means we 100% need to have Meat Shield here to help them survive. Everything else is a golem, so like y'all can die. I don't care. But yeah, that is going to be the way I will counter it. If I ever run this, I'm going to be running Meat Shield on that minion. And in the ideal universe, I'm also going to pair it with a minion life. In that setup, I can't because I need the levels, but the levels are also extra life, so kind of works out. They are still going to be way squishier than if I had just not taken this, because it's still 50% more damage taken, or increased damage taken. So at the end of the day, it's going to be one of those things I'll try on whenever I roll that Golemancer, and if it feels like ass, I'm going to unspec it. It's that simple. But yeah, this is potentially a really high amount of damage for certain setups. And of course, for even tanky minions like Regifilers, you could potentially think about using something like this. I wouldn't, because there's still content out there that is juiced in, that if juiced enough will kill your minions, Regifilers included. Now, they are very tanky, so it rarely happens. But every once in a while, you run a T17, which are no longer really a problem anymore. But if this were last season as an example, every once in a while you'd run a T17 that would just have the wrong combination of what, and all of a sudden you lose a Spectre or two. Now, granted, these Spectres tended to be your support Spectres and not your Regifilers, but your support Spectres are also going to be taking the downside, so like still valid. But yeah, it's an okay node, but this downside is very steep, like very steep. So like I don't know what build would actually want to use it, because like something like SRS will probably want to use it alongside Blessed Rebirths. Maybe I assume they still remain damageable minions even with Blessed Rebirth, so they might want to take it base SRS. It's only steep for those not willing to I mean, if you would like to be a minioner with no minions around you, then like it's valid, because like you really have to think about your minions' defenses when taking this. It's not a plug and play. That being said, something like Guardians, big guy, Sentinel of Radiance could probably use this as well, because he is already so tanky, and for his build in particular, you want to potentially scale minion damage or minion life. And because you want to already scale minion life, you're already in a spot where because you want to scale minion life, he should still be tanky enough to where this doesn't matter, and all your support minions should be in the same boat where they are tanky enough that they still don't die because they have that much life. Minion defenses are 6 portals. Tell that to your AG who only needs 1. What you can achieve in 6 portals, my guy is achieving in 1. Anyways, that is the Alpha Roid Ritual. That's the bread and butter of this ascendancy for minions. There's Bound Flesh, which is kind of decent, but like basically what this does is for every 20 life you spend on skills, you're going to gain bariatric tension, and then whenever you take a savage hit, you're going to lose all the bariatric tension you have to recover as much tension as you lost as life, up to a maximum of 30% of your life. So, and in case you don't know, a savage hit is a hit that takes, I think, like 20% of your life, or is it life and ES combined? Basic, or is it actually? I think it's closer to 15%. Savage hits. It is a hit that removes at least 15% of the target's maximum life. Damage ES is not counted towards savage hit threshold. So that is what a savage hit is, and that is what this does. And then the last one says supported by level 1 cruelty. Supported by level 1 cruelty is also kind of an option. And what I mean by it's also an option is the support gem right there says minions cannot gain cruelty. It doesn't say it cannot support skills done by minions or cannot support minion skills, right? It doesn't say that. And because it doesn't say that, I think you can actually support minion skills with it, and they would benefit from the 15% more damage with hits. It's just 50% more multiplier. It's a decent ascendancy point. If you want just one more damage, that is decent. The cruelty portion will be completely lost on you. So like, I don't know if it's worth it, but 15% more damage is 15% more damage anyways. So keep that in mind. That is all for the content I have actually reviewed. This I have been saving to react on stream, so like I haven't actually watched this interview, the one with Ziz. I watched John Groan's interview this evening. So I am up to date on that one, but I haven't seen this one. Now before we get in, now I want to quickly touch on the build I was talking about that I've been pretty excited to POB myself. It's been quite the journey. Chaos Golem of the Maelstrom. I thought about this plan before the league, before any of the reviews and whatnot, and I just kind of wanted to go with an off-meta build eventually. So I'm very happy with where this POB turned out, because Chaos Golem of the Maelstrom, when you think about it, is let's just say it's not a strong skill. Right, we can all agree it's not a strong minion at all, but we were able to get it up to 19.4 mil DPS, which is, I would say, it was difficult to get here, and this is without Ascendancy 4, which as of right now we're going to Katarina because we didn't have Saresh, but with the removal of Katarina, we lose some evasion, we lose some armor, do we have ES? We lose some ES, yes. And then instead we get damage. I think 150% increased damage from where I am puts me at 21.5. God damn, actually. Now, the only question is, how will this feel? Will I hate it? Will I not? That would be the question. But like 21.5 mil DPS is quite solid, especially for a minion that is so off meta. People never think about it when it comes to DPS minions. Like, this is not something that is this is not something in any case that people I want to say would run. And if anything, I would say it's possibly league startable. It's just your single target will probably be asked for a while, and I don't think that is an experience I would like to have personally. But it's probably league startable. At least as of when I decide to actually try this build, I will be trying to make a low budget version and seeing how that feels and stuff like that. Because I would want to 0 to hero it. In any case, we're going to be using concentrated effect, and now, as you might imagine, with concentrated effect, that means we're reducing their AoE, which is why we went for 2 for the price of 1. We're using 2, the damage doesn't stack, but the wither stack rate increases per Chaos Golem on single targets, and you have more coverage for clear, so kind of works out. And we have every single other golem for the purposes of Primordial Harmony, so like it's kind of, we're not losing anything by having the second guy. It's not doing anything single target DPS wise, because I can reduce this to 1. It doesn't change, like they don't stack their damage. But yeah, clear wise, I'm really not worried because of the fact that I have 2, and I also have an explode AG, an AG that is dedicated to complete explode. Everything is explode, like literally explode chest, explode weapon, yada yada. Should be fun. The one thing I would like to do is, realistically, I would like to fit in punishment, I think, or just more curse effects, something like that. But you know, it isn't easy. It is not easy to do it. I think currently my AG uses Enfeeble. Do I still have punishments here? Okay, no, I don't have punishments here. All right. In case you're wondering why I reduce curse effect, I have increased curse effect on my build, and that's the only way to get it down to not take the increased cost effect, because then that is going to inflate my tankiness numbers. Saresh Bloodline, but then that gives me minions take 50% increase damage. I'm not going to put the E yet. I want to see how big of a survivability loss that is. Now, these guys are immune to early damage. Huge. They are not, however, immune to physical or chaos. They will have endurance charges while clearing from my AG. Actually, and I'll probably have an extra support, to be fair. What do we have here? Oh, no, they won't, because I don't have Warlord here. I have Perfect Hulking Miscreation, Guardian Turtle, Thunderbird, Carnage Chieftain, Pain Artist for Zealotry. If I could get one more, maybe I'll get the guy that does increase chaos damage shaking. I don't know. That'll probably be who I end up getting. In any case, 100k Fizz was the max hit. Now 67k is the max hit. Actually 93, 137. Let's 134, 205. So it went from 134 to 93, was it? And this went from 205 to, holy shit. In case you're wondering how much of a DPS, of a damage or a defense nerf it is, that is a lot. Now, I'm not even too worried about my golem, because my golems also regen a stupid amount of life from all the primordial harmonies. Like, it's still, they'll probably be fine. Tell me my AG, he regens a stupid amount, so he'll probably be fine. It's the Spectres I worry about, and not just any Spectre. The Pain Artist, I think, is the squishiest Spectre I have. And this is problematic, 29k. That is very problematic, actually. Yeah, he's going to need some Chaos Res. I'm not using Bone Meld. No, I am not. So I need to manually give him Chaos Res, which means he needs to have something like this if he is going to have any form of chaos mitigation whatsoever. So that's something I'm going to have to figure out. I need to figure it out regardless of Saraj bloodline or not. But this is 43k versus 19k. Was it 29k? So very, very big downside to have to like, you know, deal with. I'll figure that out later though, not now. I don't think I care too much. For now, we're just going to sit on Katarina Ascendancy. And now think about how I can give them Chaos Stress, because I don't even use a single Ghastly Idol. Actually, I do. There's you. Maybe remove the regen, but the regen is, like I said, it's really good for them. Yeah, I think the regen kind of has to stay, so we'll have to figure something out. I guess one of these could be a medium cluster that has Dread March, which is 10%, but like that's not changing a lot. It is not changing a lot at all. All right, now for interview time. I think now that we're going to watch the interview, I can actually turn this guy off because we don't need all that background noise.
For joining me for a pre-Mirage interview. I'm joined with Octavian and Andrew. Some are already familiar with Octavian. We'll do introductions here in a sec, but this is Andrew's first time at an interview, I believe. I saw you did a ExileCon thing. But I figured if you guys can start with introducing yourselves and talk a little bit about what you do at Grindy Gear Games.
I like how Wakawarua is just here staring at us in the face. Like, it looks like everything else was dulled out. This one said, nah, I'm gonna be bold.
My name's Andrew. I've been at GGG for about 7 years now. I started off in QA, and then I think I moved to design around Metamorph League. Out of like all of the designers at GGG, I'm probably the one who's like spent the highest proportion of time on Path of Exile 1. Not to say I haven't done a few things on PoE 2, but yeah, so I'm pretty familiar with like all of the leagues back since when, all of them.
And is it true that you are the dev check guy? That whenever Chris Wilson was doing like a dev check, it would be you answering the questions?
Yeah, for a period there, yep.
That's cool.
That's good to know. I know a lot of people are curious about that. It's a good emote on Twitch too. Octavian, do you want to introduce yourselves for people who aren't familiar with you already?
Sure. Though first I do just want to say, like, I feel like Andrew's selling himself a little bit short. Like, he is essentially the bedrock of Path of Exile.
Never seen someone so big. So I talking about Andrew or Octavian. Welcome back.
Exile 1 design. Like, if there is a league mechanic or other thing in Path of Exile 1 that you like, he probably did some of the implementation for it.
Wow.
But yeah, my name is Octavian. Not my real name. Technically, my real name is Chris, but there's already another Chris at Grand, or there has been another Chris at Grinding Gear. But yeah, my name is Octavian. I joined the company about 4 years ago now, and I am, design on PoE 1, though I started in QA like Andrew and like a lot of our designers. And also have touched a number of things on PoE 2, but full-time PoE 1 now.
And for those that don't know, Octavian used to be a streamer before as well. So
yes, in a past life.
Right?
What's that?
You're still a part-time streamer.
Now and again as a hobby. But
really good games
used
too.
to be used to be full-time. Used to be on podcasts on the other side of this.
I can imagine what it feels like being going from being a full-time I guess I don't know if it was a full-time streamer, but being a streamer to being a dev for the game, that would be something. I feel like it would kill your love for it, but maybe it wouldn't. Who knows? Like I would get pissed off at code, and I would not play the game as much. But I think that's a me thing.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for introducing yourselves, and thank you guys for being here and giving me this opportunity. I have a lot of
Really good games. A hint for Tarkov, because he streams Tarkov a lot and Ziz loves it. Really? Okay. I mean, I've heard many things about Tarkov. Not too many calling it too good of a game. And many of them are probably made in salty moments, but like, you know.
We'll start with talking about Mirage itself. And I'm a little bit curious with like when it comes to ideas and stuff. When you're thinking up a league for PoE 1, do you ever consider, is this going to be in PoE 2? Is it going to be used there? And how will it look like when it comes to PoE 2?
What was that blink?
Not really. I mean, I won't say that it's like literally never come up as a question, but it's kind of an afterthought. You know, like,
did I see the reward stuff? I saw the, if my brain will work, I'll let you know what I saw. Twitch drops. That's what I saw. I didn't see challenges. It wasn't posted on the Path of Exile Discord channel. Now it has been. It's okay. It was posted after I went to the teaser and I was ranting about Chaos Golem of the Milsham, I think. Are you gonna open, or are we just going to be waiting for you? What is happening here? Discord is being slow. There. Discord was being very slow for some reason. Alright, let's see what the challenge rewards are. Okay. I see what it is now. I'm downloading a video and it has finished downloading and now it's converting. But basically it's the PoE Mirage content review because I want footage from my Dumblow League starter. And I figured I wanted to do this before I streamed, but like shit just wasn't downloading quickly for whatever reason, so I just left it. So now it is having effect on my PC, I think, as it finishes converting or whatever that means. So I'll let that do its thing, and then we can watch the video. It's 100% already, so it would probably have one more batch where it cuts me off. And then it's done. Any minute now. Come on. There, it's done. It didn't cut me off. Nice. All right. Anyways, 4 different cosmetic rewards. So it wouldn't be an armor set, it'd be something else. So like, that's, I'm curious how that will feel. I don't know how I feel about that. What YouTube downloader do I use? It's called 4K Video Downloader Plus. What I use. Pretty good. Allows you to get like 10 free downloads a day if you have a reason to use that much. And it allows you to choose the quality of said videos if you're downloading at 4K or 1080 or, you know, whatever else.
Faces. Become a gilded monarch, encrusted with jewels and wearing both the faces of the regal orb. The helmet has 3 variations, so you can choose whether or not to display your regal mask. The body armor...
Hold up. 1 and 2, what was the difference? Oh, it was this side.
Not to display your regal mask.
Who is this? Is this a duelist?
Crusted with jewels and wearing both the...
You're supposed to be wearing both the faces of the regal orb. I figured what that meant would be it could switch to either of the faces of the Regal Orb, it's a software? Yes, it's a software.
Faces of the Regal Orb. The helmet has 3 variations, so you can choose whether or not to
But yeah,
display
the 2-on-1, it's the side thing that removes.
The body armor, gloves, and boots also have 3 variations.
Okay.
Choose to either shine gold, emanate a royal magical blue. Choose to either shine gold, emanate a royal magical blue, or a combination of both.
Channel your inner all.
Around on top of the layer of metallic gold.
It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of the helmet, but I think the third variant where there's multiple colors, this could definitely go on different cosmetic sets. I'm also not a big fan of how fat the hands look, but like that's me. Maybe it's just the duelist. Maybe he's put on a bit of weight. You know, he's got a lot to love.
Completing challenges also grants you pieces of this league's totem pole hideout decoration.
I'll be honest, when it comes to the totem poles, I always stop like here. But like, if you were to show me like 4 different challenge leagues, I wouldn't be able to tell what like which totem pole is for what. Like, because like what about this screams is it Vastiri and Varashta and the Jin and all the Afaru? Like, man, he looks old with that helmet. He looks very old with the helmet. Like, if you compare the helmet to what the oh shit, they got distracted by the sub. Thank you, Yaku, appreciate it. 13 months have already gone by. Thank you. If you compare how old he looks with the duelist low and how everybody says he is so handsome, it's not matching. It doesn't really match as much when he looks like that. Just saying.
As always, these cosmetics do not affect your character's power or progression in any way.
Okay. Not the biggest fan of the helmet, but like the chest piece can probably fit in different slots. Like I said, I'm going to do challenge rewards because it's free cosmetics. Why the fuck not?
Case of Mirage, I pitched the idea originally, and that certainly wasn't part of the premise. No.
Mirage is very, very different. We've seen like starting at Legion, we had like the homogenization of loot. This seems a little bit the opposite of that, where it's enhancing each league's individual flavor. Would you talk a little bit more about like the league mechanic itself, especially like just basic things like what happens when you die? Can you go back in?
You would use a portal in the same way that you would if you died in the original map.
Okay.
So yes, you can go back in if you have a portal remaining.
And then we saw in the video.
Okay,
you
so it's
free
not
the
the one
gems.
portal.
Does that itself drop any loot or end the Mirage?
It doesn't prevent you from going back in the Mirage if there was still loot in there that you hadn't looted yet and you wanted to go get. But the Jin breaking free is kind of a flavor thing. However, completing a Mirage within the Mirage, so finding the astral chain and breaking that, will spawn a cache of rewards.
Okay, cool. And like I said,
When he said completing the Mirage within the Mirage, I'm like, what do you mean? Is there a Mirage within the Mirage? Can we get 3 maps for the price of 2 or 1? Like, what do you mean? He just meant completing the objective.
Right, so I was wondering if we could have any examples of that. I'm particularly curious about how it interacts with ritual. Can we have 8 rituals, basically?
I was gonna say, for the majority of this league cycle, Octavian has been working on the league, and I've been working on a bunch of the other stuff.
Yeah.
So Mirage stuff to me is like still fairly fresh. I'm not familiar with it, but I think I did actually do stuff regarding the ritual mechanics for Mirage.
Mm-hmm.
It's got this weird thing going on where if you had 4 rituals within your regular map, it will try to buff the ritual in the Mirage by so much that it would give you an equivalent amount of tribute. We had to do a bunch of weird maths to figure this out, but basically, if there's only There's 4 rituals.
I like how they talk about PoE 1 code like it's this living beast that evolved by itself, and then the mere mortals have to figure out what evolution it has taken form in and how to make it work. Like when you said that they had to figure out that it does that, I'm like, didn't you guys make the math? Like, well, I think he just means they had to figure out the math to get that to work the way they wanted it to. But like, the way it sounded off rip was kind of hilarious. Like, listen to it.
That it would give you an equivalent amount of going on where if you had 4 rituals within your regular map,
it sounds like you're talking about the beast or something.
we'll try to buff the ritual in the Mirage by so much that it would give you an equivalent amount of tribute. We had to do a bunch of weird maths to figure this out, but basically, if there's 4 rituals in your real map and there's 1 ritual in your Mirage, then that 1 ritual in your Mirage will be super juiced and it should give you an equivalent amount of tribute to what you had in your real map.
Wow.
That's nice.
Cool.
That's pretty smart.
Examples that you're willing to share about like how it affects and changes league mechanics? That was a really cool one.
Abyss is one where so often the Mirage area is much smaller than the original map, and an Abyss can path quite a distance. So an Abyss in a Mirage is often going to, if its pathing would have taken it outside of the bounds of the Mirage, it will instead just open up a pit and start spewing out tons of monsters on the spot.
Oh. Okay. And speaking of Abyss, does it or how does it interact with anything like an Abyssal Pit, Syndicate Research, anything that has like a separate zone, whether it's a loading one or not?
So what
Arborest is a loading zone,
which is what a Mirage is. It's a child of the instance that it was created in. Cannot itself have further child instances. So that means that Labyrinth Trials, Volside areas, Abyssal Depths are not actually able to spawn in Mirages, no.
What about stuff like Alva that is it's a portal to something else, but it's not a loading screen?
Oh, Jesus.
Hard rule. Alva actually doesn't work, but that's Alva master missions in general don't get recreated in Mirages, but that's mostly because they have meta systems that need to be in a given state, and we can't actually predict the state that you'll be entering the Mirage in. So, like, say you've only done half of the encounters in the parent instance, and then you enter the Mirage. If you're in a Jin, talking in the context of a Jin mission, we don't know the state of your board. Like, it's in flux. Because the state of the board is recalculated at the end of all of the Jin encounters, not necessarily at the end of each individual one within a map. So mostly for functional reasons, master missions don't work. And then, like I said, anything that would send you to a further child instance doesn't get recreated.
What about Harvest?
Harvest is, I guess, is not a child instance.
Are you willing to talk about how Harvest works?
If the portal to the Harvest Grove, I guess it's what it's called, is within the Mirage, then you can enter it, and the entire grove is valid walkable space.
Well, yeah, but is it different in the Mirage?
Oh yeah, there's a new kind of seed.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Okay, it does say-
We
that's
put it on
what-
the reveal page.
yeah, it's freaking glowing green. God knows what they're about to it's about to poop out. Actually, I don't have the reveal page open anymore. I closed that today,
Any
unironically.
mechanics that like completely don't work? Do you want to expand more on anything else that like isn't workable?
I think the only one that doesn't fit in the earlier list is the Viridian Wildwood doesn't show up in Mirages. There is a wish to add wisps though.
Okay. And what about Delve? Does that get like changed as well, like the sulfide piles?
That's master missions in general don't show up in Mirages. So
Right, that makes sense.
I'm curious, how does a delirium mirror work?
I would have to double check this because I requested it work this way, but I haven't looked at the issue in a while and it hasn't come back to me. But the intention is that if there is a delirium mirror in the overworld that you interacted with, then there is one in the Mirage.
Whoa. Okay.
That you interacted with.
Does Mirages interact with the Valdo tier 17 maps from the puzzle boxes?
You can do a Mirage and a Valdo map, but you won't get the reward again.
Okay.
So you'll be able to do content again, but not the like special,
Because you just really love.
You can still be sent to the void.
Yes.
You just really love Valdo
It's
maps.
the parent instance, and that is a map stat. So yes.
Right. Does Nightmare maps and Originator maps have like both functionalities of the Mirage? Like, can you go through like the small Mirage, or can you basically double the map like that type of Mirage?
That is at odds with Originator maps, because the
What's
modifier
an
that makes a
enchant?
map an entire Mirage map is taking up the same space as the modifier that makes it an Originator map. And that's kind of purposeful because we wanted to have two different strategies you could be pursuing in the end game rather than just stacking every strategy on top of each other.
Oh, what about Nightmare maps?
Nightmare maps work with Mirages, yes.
And even the like
Or
doubling
what do
it?
you mean?
Like, well, so you could have like, I can't remember, or I actually don't fully know the fully name of it, but there's like, you said in the Q&A with Ziggy that you can do a full Mirage, right? Like fully Mirage a map.
I don't see any reason that wouldn't work with the Nightmare map, but I'm not 100% certain without testing it.
And that's
How do
why,
you Mirage a map?
well, that's why I was
Like, how do
curious
you get
about
a fully
asking
Mirage map?
that. Uh-huh.
These guys need a dev check guy.
Fully Mirage maps have a chance
They need
to
an
drop from
Andrew.
map bosses within a Mirage.
So are you a little bit
answer Andrew's
concerned
question.
that makes it back to tier 17 meta again, that you can fully Mirage those, but you can't on Originator maps?
Well, you're not able to apply the Egan juice, the blobs, as been lovingly termed, to them. So I think it should be fine, but that is a valid concern.
Okay, well, I'm glad that's brought up at least and like thought about. That's definitely a concern.
I wonder how Astrolabes will feel to run, especially with the
Cyrus in a Mirage.
Keystone.
Are you willing to share any other like large buses like that? Like, can we see Ubers?
There is a wish that spawns. There is a wish, a relatively rare wish that is T16 plus only, that spawns a random feared member in your map.
And my follow-up question then is, do they have their original drop tables?
They can drop their uniques.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. I like it.
And I'm guessing that's the, like, so if it spawns Cyrus, I'm guessing that's the normal version of Cyrus and not the Uber version.
Yes, not Uber. The version that would show up in feared, which I don't think is the Uber version.
No, but you can witness both, so I figured it was worth asking. Cool. So we have Mirage items are coming with like new uniques and the Coin of Restoration. Now, my question here is, we did have a sort of similar system with faded uniques from Prophecy, which altered, Limb Split into Cauterizer, where Cauterizer is just better than Limb Split in every way. Is this going to be a similar type system where the restored unique is just better in every way, or are they both usable for different purposes?
I'm sure, players will define a meta where some of them are more valuable or stronger than others, but the intent is that they are, roughly equivalent. Now, given that they do very different things, it's kind of hard to match that intent. One will probably be a bit stronger than the other.
Yeah.
But no, it's not meant to be like, this is, thing A, and then when you use the coin on it, it's thing A plus plus.
Yeah.
They're meant to be meaningfully different and equally viable.
Cool.
Yeah, from what I've seen, they look like.
I didn't send you an absolution link. Sure, I can send that. Give me a quick second. Let me find that.
The two uniques are for completely different builds. So, for example, Rough Spider's like a poison themed sword, and then the fire equivalent is an ignite themed sword, or a fire dot sword.
Respite was the internal name for the unique sword that we showed off in the Q&A or in the live stream.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I like that. I like that. Next up, I really want to ask about Streams of the Desiccated, which in a lot of ways is competing hard with, or even replacing, Mage Blood. Is it divinable? Like, can I divine Resistance Shrine to Massive Shrine? I guess that's my first question.
No, the shrine will not change with a divine orb. It works sort of like a Watcher's Eye in that respect.
Awesome. And what shrines are we not getting? Obviously, Divine Shrine, I guess.
I mean, it can't be permanent Minion.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, definitely not Divine Shrine.
What about Echoing?
Yeah. I know I'm going to disappoint some people with this answer, but I don't really want to reveal the full list. I mean, it's going to be data mined on release, I'm sure. But
what about, can you tell us if Echoing is on there?
Well, all I can say is I still have the balance issue on me. It's like the only unique balance issue I have left. And we were talking quite a lot last week about it because we're basically looking at this thing and we're like, have we just power creeped Mage Blood? There's a lot of interesting things you can do with it because it's basically, the downside is it only applies to Shrine while you have no Flask active. But to be honest, there's like a lot of ways you can still take advantage of that downside. Like, for example, you can take the King of the Mist +1 ring slot, and an extra ring is certainly juicy. You can use Tincture still, you can use instant flasks. So the downside isn't as punitive as it may first seem on paper. And then if you look at what the shrines actually grant, like a ton of them grant completely cracked buffs. And you'd also, unfortunately, this is a little bit of a combo item because you're always going to be comboing it with something like the Gal. You might use Blunderbore, but basically you'd want to stack as much shrine effect as possible on top. So yeah, there's certainly, this item is crazy, and the balance is still in progress, and it's probably
The balance
gonna
is
end
still
up
in
being
progress.
rare for like very specific combinations, but
Good.
yeah, there are crazy shrines on it for sure.
I gave Andrew a problem.
Awesome. No, I'm super excited. It does look super fun, and at least Mage or the belt is a very competitive slot, right? So that is a good thing.
Sure.
Cool. Glad we got that. Don't nerf it too much. It looks super fun. Very big fun. Right. So
One thing I did want to say, because I mentioned this on, like, you know, I was asked a question in Discord, but I want to mention it on like a more public platform, is the just to confirm it, the belt chooses an offensive and a defensive shrine. So you're never going to get, you know, like brutal and diamond together. Double offensive buffs doesn't happen, double defensive doesn't happen.
okay, cool. Not even a small chance.
No, it's one offensive, one defensive.
That'd be cool. Acceleration echoing. All right. Well, speaking of power, the next topic that I want to cover a little bit is borrowed power. And we've been seeing that, like, that's been the meta for a while now. And the main borrowed power we're getting this league is the imbued gems, which are also directly competing with 21 gems and Val gems.
I don't like the competitive Vow gems personally, but
the design intent here when you're choosing like the borrowed power and how it's going to be implemented.
Well, I wouldn't say there's necessarily like this is the only borrowed power you're getting this league, because there's a ton of new currency items coming from Mirage, which are all giving, in essence, like a little bit of borrowed power here and there.
Okay.
But yes, these imbued gems are definitely one of like the bigger sources. They also tend to favor attack builds, I'd say, because they care less about getting that level 21 as opposed to just being level 20.
Yeah. Fair. You have like a baseline for what sort of power level, I guess maybe in like a more damage sense, that you're aiming for borrowed power, where I'd say, on top of my head, I would say Mercenary is probably where we had the most borrowed power, right? With probably the Doriani thing not maybe being superintended. But do you have like a rough number in mind for borrowed power per league?
double
I
damage.
wouldn't even necessarily say that we need to have borrowed power every league, but it completely depends on the league mechanic, to be honest. It's like Mercenaries could allow for a lot more borrowed power because it actually made things more difficult at the same time, whereas most leagues' borrowed power are just pure power creep in that sense. But I don't think there's like any hard and fast rules here, to be honest.
Like, just to, for clarity's sake, I guess, like the place that imbued gems came from, as far as the design goal that I wanted to fulfill, is I wanted people to have 2 decision points when choosing a wish, not just like what the wish does in the area, but the imbued gems all come from the sigils associated with the wish. Like, if you want to get the red imbued gem, you click the wish with the red sigil, and that's what
So I have to spam the blue ones.
Red imbued gem.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the red currency that creates them. And that means that like maybe there's a wish that you wouldn't normally otherwise take, but you're trying to farm for the red gem, so you're going to take it. And I wanted to have 2 axes of choice for all of the wishes, and that's where this came from. And it just also happened to be like, oh, and this can be, you know, some of the borrowed power that we might want to put in the league otherwise.
And are these going to be fairly plentiful, as in you'll get like a decent amount per day? Because obviously hitting the exact gem you want looks like it's going to be quite hard, and a lot of people are worried that this is going to be something that's like 2 or 5 divine per coin.
I can't really.
I think I've already heard the answer to this one.
End up being, I would say. Also, it's hard to say how many you'll get per day because some people run 2 maps in a day and some people run 50.
Yeah.
You definitely could get 1 or more a day at a reasonable rate if you're playing quite a bit. I don't know. It's a rabbit hole question.
That's fair.
Kind of.
What is quite a bit? 1 or 2
I
is
was actually
not
going to have this as a
encouraging.
rapid fire question, but I care
Well,
about
let's
it
see.
so much that I moved it up. Because we're talking about borrowed power. So probably my favorite item of all time is that which was taken, and it was taken from us. Is there any chance that it can become that which was given back? It was so cool.
Well, I can't. Well, to be fair, the unique art still exists because I'm pretty sure that ended up being reused as the new jewel from the King and the
Light
Beast,
of Meaning.
the Light of Meaning. But I think that which was taken was definitely a borrowed power source from the Affliction League. It sort of only made sense in the context of charms as well. It was sort of giving you extra charms on top of what you could already get from the Primalist Ascendancy. And it wasn't really doing anything novel. It was, the charm system was just like a thrown together fun passive tree mechanic that was just stealing effects from all over the game. It isn't really providing anything new. And another point to that is PoE 1 sort of has a little bit of a problem where at the high end game, you basically just stack a ton of limit 1 unique jewels.
Fucking base.
So many of them. You've got like Watcher's Eye and your Forbidden Jewels and your Timeless Jewels. So
Every single time I think about making a POB or something, the first question I have is how many jewel sockets can I realistically use? Now for this golem setup, for example, it needs to have as many primordial harmonies as I could. So I was like, I have to limit what other things I'm doing. So what can I take out? All right, let's start limit ones. Watcher's Eye is non-negotiable. All right, cool. Sublime Vision, don't need it, thankfully. All right. Can I go ahead and not use an immutable force for stun? Yeah, let's try to not use it. Can I not use this? Can I not use that? And it's like if you let the game be like, if you just want to go for pure power in terms of jewel sockets, the game will literally tell you what to do. Like if I would pull up, what build did I not do this on? Let's say Dominating Blow, probably. I say probably, right? I look at the items. You already have Forbidden Flesh and Flame. You have Immutable Force. You have Watcher's Eye. You have Rational Doctrine. This is not even as popular, but like Melding is another one. There's a lot of like, and realistically, like, are there anyone here that I would say should not be here? No. I mean, I made it with this in mind, but like, there are more gems I could have put. It's to the point where it's even hard fitting Ghastly Eye Jewels in a high budget setup because there are so many better limit 1 gems. Realistically,
just keep on adding more and more limit 1 jewels that every single builder is required to end up using.
So Subtire, how you doing?
Yeah,
welcome.
I loved it a little bit because of the almost like soulbound like quality that it like, especially in as ever really approaches what you're doing next very differently. I did want to mention that as well, actually. I have always generally been against Soulbound, but you guys used that, in my opinion, in a really good way for Sanctum.
Soulbound?
The relics were like Soulbound power, and I guess part of that is why they were allowed to be so powerful. Is that something you guys have discussed bringing back in the future?
Or like account
Not
bound
necessarily
stuff?
with Sanctum relics, but with another mechanic.
I'm generally of the opinion that I prefer most character power is
Woke up, have to do an all-nighter now for next night. I mean, we're preparing.
tradable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I'm
that
going to
was
be
fine
up for
for
so long, but I feel like I'm not going to be able to do a 24-hour stream because I'll be tired. But fingers crossed, we'll see how far I can get tomorrow.
for a league, but I
or
don't think
Friday
there's
rather.
really been any discussions of bringing something similar back. I don't know how you feel.
I kind of agree. One of the things that drew me to Path of Exile in the first place was the, which is funny because I now play mostly group found or solo self found, but was definitely the economy aspect of it. Like, I really like being able to find weird niches in the economy and try and exploit them and take advantage of them. And, items that are untradeable can never be that niche. So that's not to say that it's like never something that we'll ever experiment with again. It didn't have that kind of reaction. But there has to be a really good reason.
Yeah.
For
Generally, the
what
assumption is
purpose?
character
What
power,
reason?
outside of your ascendancy and passive true and such, obviously, itemized character power should be tradable.
Cool. So you noticed that.
That's one thing I wish other games would take from them. Why? Because like I be running through different things in different games where I'm like, why aren't you tradable, my G? For example, Torchlight, they had this, the current season mechanic is called Vorax. And what you do is, I think you go through the map, you gather blood from Vorax enemies, and then you use that blood to run the encounter out of map, basically. Why isn't the blood tradable? What if I don't fucking want to do it? Why can't I just sell it to other people who do want to do it? Like, why limit me from selling it? So I really wish more things were tradable in other games. Especially when creating a hit or miss mechanic, you shouldn't force your players to engage with it because it's profitable. But alas, not every game is PoE.
Pretty much the only time that cropped up. Final question about borrowed power. Have you ever considered Foulborn, Forbidden Flame, and Flesh with the Frisia ascendancies? They're quite liked by the community, but they outside of Frisia, obviously would now.
Then they'd have to drop from the tree, which is it complicates that.
Yeah, I think the thing is, when we were coming up with the Frisian ascendancies, they were sort of just like what we could gather from all the other places in the game and throw them together and make a cohesive ascendancy out of that. So a lot of the effects from the Frisian ascendancies are from the base ascendancies and from a bunch of other unique items. So for that reason, I wouldn't really think it makes sense for them to be part of the core game because they aren't really their own unique thing necessarily.
Yeah. Makes sense. Final Mirage related question. So most seasons or leagues that we get now, we do have some sort of like league boss. I can't remember the name of the boss that we're getting this time.
Arash.
Arash. Yeah. So generally with bosses like these, they're at like quite a low power level compared to Ubers. Do you think we'll ever see a Uber version of a league boss that is like actual on par with the 10?
I saw this question while it was live, like tuned in for like 5 minutes.
In the T17 Nightmare maps, you'll notice that all of the bosses there are just like Lysair and Katarina and Utrecht and all that. But as opposed to like standalone Ubers that don't have any like modifiers in the area themselves, like I guess we could do that at some point. It would be a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. I think though, what can often be.
I tested Guardian campaign run one ascendancy point from Gradient Crusade, so OP makes campaign go super fast right after you get first lap done. Yeah, Guardian is stupidly OP for that. Like I kind of wish I could run Guardian just for that, but like Necromancer is very, very hard to pass up.
Lost is
very difficult.
In conversations with more entrenched and experienced players, is that
like there is a universe I still try Guardian PoBing with Dawn Blow because it has the relics and I think those relics are really good. I'll just need a very, very good reason to do that. Because like the way I went with my Guardians, I went Chaos and I went Chaos crits. And I like the way that PoB turned out because this is what my Dawn Blow high budget looks like. It's not configured for the buff. I think I could configure it actually. I saw how Ghazi configured his. I could do something similar. I think how he did it was Dawn Blow buff config, which was Dominating. Actually, not dominating blow. I don't believe Sentinel of Dominance would work. But let's see. Sentinel. I don't think it works now. I just put minions deal 33% more damage. I don't think it's meant to be 33% more damage because it goes from 200% more to 300% more, and that's split 50%. He used 33%. I'm not sure why he used 33%. That bit confused me. So I don't know which is better. I'll lean on the side of pessimistic and I'll go 33. And then you go ahead and you reduce the config for dominating blow by 33% as well. And all of a sudden, this is what it would look like if, like, after the buffs and whatnot, which is a fair amount of damage, 62 mil with pretty decent physical max hit and elemental max hit with chaos max hit. And of course, you also have leech, instant leech, all that jazz. So very, very good. So like I said, I would need a very good reason to try Guardian. And granted, the triple elemental relics, they are a good enough reason. Especially if you go Fizz as extra. Like you just Giga skill Fizz. And then you try to fit in Hallowed Flames somehow. Probably through the Ascendancy. But like you can't get perma Hallowed Flame. So kind of gets awkward there. Otherwise, it could be pretty chill. You don't need to buy items again for yes. That was a huge quality of life from them. Well, same for support specters you buy. Yes, you know the only way you lose support specters now is by unsocketing the gem or doing something to that effect. Losing, you know, that is how you would lose a support specter. But like if they die in a map, they just hover as a wisp. Is Dawnblow fun to play? I would say it is. I would say it can be awkward, and it also depends on your playstyle. If you're a very passive minion enjoyer where you don't like pressing buttons, then Dawnblow probably wouldn't be the most fun. But Dawnblow doesn't require you to press many buttons either, because I scale duration on my Dawnblow, so I realistically only need to press the Dawnblow button every so often. So I would say if I hit a new pack, I press Dawnblow. I don't need to like walk up to an enemy or anything. I just press it. That is why I prioritize this stats. The implicit non-val strike kills target 2 additional enemies, because that will hit 2 enemies. So I don't need to care about my positioning. I just hit those two enemies. They get debuffed. They die to the actual minions. Dawnblow is up, and they just keep you just keep going. So yeah, it's fun. I would say it's fun.
Ubers are really hard. I know that, people can definitely get builds to the point where they just like AFK stand and tank them, or they, 4-shot them in like 10 seconds or whatever. But most players aren't doing that. And we don't necessarily want, the new shiny league mechanic content that, less experienced player might be diving headfirst into to be something that is basically outside of their grasp entirely. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that, we have the boss balance for the league mechanic bosses in exactly the right place. Maybe they do need to be a little tougher, but yeah. Also, it does feel strange, and I can't come up with a good reason why it feels strange to me. And usually, one of the things I've kind of learned in design is usually if I can't come up with a good reason why I feel the way I do, that usually means there isn't one, and it's a subjective thing that I probably shouldn't hold on to. But it feels strange to me to introduce a boss and its Uber version in the same patch at the same time.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Like, I feel like Suresh within the league should probably be a static difficulty, and then if it goes core later on, then yeah, we can do all sorts of weird things like Ubers.
Yeah, I could see that. I guess I also thought of it from the point of view of, for example, like Exarch, right? You have the quest version that's like doable a lot easier, so that it is more accessible for people that are like getting there for the first time. But that might be like, especially for advanced players, a little bit too easy. Just wanted to bring it up as a thought. Next, we're pretty much done with Mirage there, except for rapid fire questions later. But next up, I want to talk about game and skill balance, particularly starting with the league start meta. And I'd say endgame skills and stuff, like there's always something new that we get to play with. But league starters have been, with some exceptions, it's been pretty stale for quite a while.
Every
So
league
I
you
just wanna
you
hear
start
you
off with
talk about that
SRS
a
or
little bit,
Absolution.
especially a thing that's brought up a lot is just like things that are very little played, just give them a 20, 30, 40% buff. Like there are things that we don't really see used at all.
It's something that I definitely want to focus on more in the next few patches. I feel pretty strongly about it too, but it's also something you have to be really careful about, because for a lot of people, you know, leveling with whatever skill they've become really familiar and with leveling, you know, be it Caustic Arrow or I don't know, Poison Concoction, whatever. There's, you know, I can list a dozen different good leveling skills. Is very comfy, and it's like an easy way to get into a new league where maybe the end game has changed and there's a new league mechanic and there's a bunch of skill buffs and nerfs and stuff, and you know, you have this old reliable you can fall back on. So like, how do you make a leveling meta less stale while also making sure that there's still old reliables for people to fall back on if they don't want to have to approach leveling with completely fresh eyes because leveling isn't their most favorite part of the game, you know?
Right.
And I'm not saying there's no challenge, no changes that can be made, but it is a hard balance to strike.
Sure, but that's a particular concern when it comes to nerfs, right? Like I think what a lot of people want is to see like a big bust of skills that are completely underused or hasn't been touched for a very long time. Not necessarily that you need to have everything perfectly balanced.
Well, I would say that in the past couple of leagues, we haven't done as much meta balance as we've typically done and like historically. Like, for example, the focus this league was more we were doing a whole batch of like holy skills. So taking a close look at everything related to that like holy archetype that already exists in the game. So you'll see there's quite a lot of buffs in the patch to things like dominating blow and absolution and static strike and holy flame totem. So we certainly have touched a lot of skills. We just haven't touched all of them, of course. It's mostly a time constraint thing, to be honest. Like, I would love to be able to go through and literally just change every single skill in the game every patch.
I wonder if the only changes to Dumb Blow are the changes to that were in the patch notes, because in the review they also mention the fact that, you know, Dumb Blow got a touch up. Now I wonder if this is just like, you know, literally just that, or if the animations and whatnot of Dumb Blow itself, or like of the minions and whatnot, got like an update. That I'd be curious to see, or if the minions look a bit different, you know.
I mean, this might be a failing, but I have very little loss aversion. So if Poisonous Concoction for some reason got deleted, I wouldn't care at all. I just want.
It's a dangerous.
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing to say. But
I love that personally.
I'm attracted to the game because I like coming back each league and it just feeling completely different. I like change. Change is what I like.
Okay.
So I would love to just be able to like massively radically change everything without any thought for the consequences of how people feel about if something's gone up or down and that type of thing.
See, but you got to temper that with making sure there's, you know, all reliable fallbacks for people to come back to. And it's basically like what Andrew said at the start of that, where like it really is just a matter of constraints. Like we have, you know, GGG
just fucking nuke
4 months and to make all the changes that we want to do in the next expansion, and there was a lot in 328. We just didn't get a massive skill rework into it, but definitely it's something that's on our radar.
Is it something that you think you could ever do mid-league, that where you're just like, you know what, these 10 skills, they're getting 10% more damage?
I mean, even if it's just purely buffs, you end up with FOMO, right? Because people say like, oh, I would have started that. Oh, I would have played that. I would have adapted to the economy differently. I would have adapted to my strategy differently if, you know, and like maybe if you.
I kind of wish they would both dance in Dervish sometime. That is a minion I am still yet to play with because every single thing I've heard about Dancing Dervish just sounds scary to have to deal with in game. A lot of people love it, but I just like I hear all about the junk and I'm just like, do I really care that much to play it? Not really. But yeah, it would be nice if they got a buff. Would I play them? I might actually give them a try if they did get buffed. But the fact that you have a 200 swords that you practically can't use, and of course provides no block, kind of already starts up. It makes it start off missing the foot, if you will. You don't have a foot to shoot yourself in at that point. You're just missing the entire foot.
Really insignificant changes, that isn't the case. But then why are you making the changes?
Right, but these changes are the same for everybody, so I don't think that is too much of an issue. Like,
Yeah, no, maybe I'm overstating it, but I'm.
If they
personally
made it
very
100,
conscious
so
when it
I
comes to
would
making
definitely
changes that actually
play it.
change balance and content rather than just bug fixes and such.
you did bring up new gems, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about how these are developed now, and especially when it comes to like the baseline power of them. Like what sort of baseline level of power, or how do you try to avoid that they're not like dead on arrival? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I can sort of talk about how a skill is balanced. So, for example, in this patch cycle, Octavian designed the majority of the holy skills. So, basically, he'd make the skill, and then he'd give me an issue to sanity check the balance. So, how I'd go about that typically is I wouldn't even look at damage first. Damage is the last thing you look at for the balance of a skill. So, mostly it's check that it's functional, check that what all of its interactions are, like support gems, etc. Figure out what all the scaling factors are, like for example, does it get more damage if you scale up area of effect or multiple projectiles or duration, that type of thing. And then basically play test it at a variety of, well, I typically test in like early game, I'll usually test it like the docks in Act 3. And then late game, I'll probably be testing at like level 80 and like a T10ish map.
Okay.
So not like super duper in-game builds for these at all, but basically I'll just like mess around with my damage until I feel comfortable to see if it like clears fine.
Yeah.
So basically get all of the crit chance, area of effect, all of those bells and whistles in place before even starting to look at the damage. And then after that, it's sort of like comparing to pre-existing skills is usually a good way to start, as in getting a baseline for the balance. And I will say that I typically try to set the numbers a bit higher than what I think is correct relative to pre-existing skills in the game.
Right.
Like, for example, in the last set of skills we released, Kinetic Fusillade is very strong in my opinion, and I did league start it.
It is.
And I might have forgot to nerf it this patch, but
Might have forgot. Are you starting it again?
nah,
Casually
I'll
forgotten
be
to
playing
nerf it.
something on the Templar for sure.
Okay.
You just
Oh.
Partial just wake up League Start Day, he'll go to his patch note page, he'll refresh, he'll see a new day, and then he's just going to start sweating. He's just going to start absolutely sweating, dreading what could be in there.
Carry on.
I was just going to say, just to give context to that damage last thing, it's not because it's the least important factor. It's because if you don't have all the other factors in place, then you can't judge the damage.
Yeah.
Because like, if the AoE of the skill does impact single target damage and it's not correct and it needs to be adjusted or changed, then it doesn't matter what damage you set at that point. If you go back and change something earlier in the chain, so to speak, now you no longer know what the output is. So you need to get all of the inputs correct, and then you can judge the output.
Makes sense. With new skills, do you feel that with Kinetic Rain, we saw that it was very, very strong in the preview when Ziggy played it, etc. And then it later got nerfed. Are you ever worried that you're trying to be too safe so that sometimes new skills are underperforming a little bit because you don't want them to completely dominate either?
Well, I sort of disagree with the sentiment that Kinetic Rain is a weak skill. I
Well,
did
no,
level
but it
with all
did
the
get
ones.
nerfed before we got to play it. It was more
Well,
like-
It
the
got
thing is,
Giga got
the
it, if I
mistake
remember
there was
correctly.
that the player should never have seen the gem
Right.
with that numbers, which
That
was my
was-
fault. So
That was my mistake.
Yeah.
Like as Andrew said, I usually will design the skill and set it up and then send it to him for balance review. It did not go to Andrew for balance review before it went to Ziggy for gameplay footage, and
right.
that was a mistake on my part.
Cool. I was just curious about it. I wanted to bring it up. Well,
It did not go to Andrew. Okay, so
there.
Andrew is to blame. We have the target of our pitchforks
I
now.
have an Ignite related question. So Defiled Forces was changed massively, and that did have a bit of a stranglehold on Ignite, where it was sort of like the correct way to play it. So changing that is good.
The Defiled Forces? Oh. Oh, I see. So you just curse them to keep the strongest ignite on the enemy burning.
However, that does put Ignite maybe in a lot of ways behind other dot archetypes. Do you have any plans to like rework Ignite now that Defiled Forces is gone?
Well, it's more of a question of like. Usually, we don't decide what we're doing for.
I mean, Penny
like,
would always
straight
keep the
away.
biggest ignites, is what that means.
As in, like, we're starting to figure out what we want to do for 329 now, but we're not necessarily figuring out what we're doing for 329 balance yet. We'd rather see how things play out at 328 launch, and then after a few weeks, we'll be able to judge, like, what are the type of things that no one's playing, what are the type of things that are weak, and what are the type of things we should be, like, focusing on improving for 329. So Ignite surely might be one of those things, but not to say there might be new exceptional supports, there might be new uniques, there might be other new interactions which do cause Ignite to be like quite strong this league. But yeah, it's certainly something that we'd look at if it's weak, like you say.
And I would say that we have more of a structured approach to that than maybe we've had in the past, where like now we have this structure where we look at the worst, the least played couple of ascendancies every league and try and get some buffs in there. Probably what we need to do is start, looking at the list of skills and find the ones down at the bottom. Maybe we need to even extend that out to like looking for archetypes that are underplayed. And yeah, Ignite could be on that list. It's something
That would be
now we
nice.
have this like dedicated PoE1 team split. We can be focusing more resources on that earlier in the development cycle, and so catch more things like this.
Okay, that's very good to hear. Also, apparently, Virus sent me a message about chat. They really want some assurances on the new skills, and he said people really want to play the new skills. Can you ask to make sure, like, are you happy with the balance of the new skills? Like, are they strong and good for starting?
Well, I can say for Holy Strike in particular, before I'd even started balance testing it, one of our QA was like, this skill needs to be nerfed by 4 times on the Twilight Strand. So,
Okay.
trust me, it is still better than Glacial Hammer was for Templar start, but yeah, it's a pretty weird scaling skill though. Like, it scales similarly to Animate Weapon of Self-Reflection, so...
Cool. Well, that sounds neat. Well, I hopefully that is assuring for new people. Next up is the most important question.
Did he say Holy Strike or Holy Hammers?
So weird scaling skill hammer was for Templar Twilight Strand. So our QA was like, this skill needs to... Before I'd even started balance testing it, one of our QA... Well, I can say for Holy Strike and
Oh, Holy Strike, holy.
Hammer was for it scales similarly.
The Minion one.
Weapon of Self-Reflection. So
Cool. Well, that sounds neat. Well, I hopefully that is assuring for new people. Next up is the most important question. Transfigured Explosive Arrow.
I was going over options with this with a couple of people in QA, and I have an idea that I want to pitch to programmers.
Okay, cool.
That I will not say the specifics of because
So-
it may not exist if it can't work.
So maybe 3.29.
I'm excited.
But more broadly, rather than just specifically on Transfigured EA, like I said in the Q&A, it's a kind of a personal crusade of mine that every active skill in the game have at least one alt gem variant, ideally eventually 2. because
Yeah.
I really like the alt gem system. I think it's very cool, and I would like to keep iterating on it.
Yeah, just last week, one of our like senior monster designers, he loves Fireball. He'll just play it every single league. And he's been petitioning me for a long time for various transfigured Fireball versions.
Andrew would just
One of our
open
other
his teams
designers,
first
like,
thing in the
after our
morning. You'll see a
discussion at
message.
lunch, went back to his
Fireball,
just straight up
Fireball
version the issue for
transfigured when?
329. So I guess it's in the version. It must be happening.
Yeah,
That's
we have.
awesome.
There's actually a handful that were partially implemented, or at least designed for 328 that didn't quite make it in. So we already have some transfigured skills that have some work done for 329. Like there will be more transfigured skills in 329.
Very cool. That's exciting. Actually, I wanted to, while we're talking about gems, one thing that was asked about a lot was elemental hit and the new breach ascendancy that converts like cold and lightning to fire. I can't remember the exact wording on it. Does that work on gems like discharge, ele hit, wild strike?
It works specifically on elemental hit because that skill is implemented in a very weird way where it's granting added damage instead of base damage. And we had a discussion last week about whether we should change this or not. And the conclusion to that discussion was it's going to be busted for 328 and we'll probably rework ele hit in 329. So have fun for a league, potentially.
I'm so glad I asked.
And just to clarify on what added damage means in this context, damage gained as extra is not added damage.
Yeah.
For the context of the Breach Lord Ascendancy, it's things like when a ring mod might say 5 to 10 added physical damage to attacks. That is what added damage is in this context.
Yeah. I think Mark 1 who
Then they proceeded to fucking
Path of Exile.
remove the entire
We
interaction.
have this confusion as well. Also note that any added damage
was
that's
deserved.
local to a weapon is not converted for this ascendancy. There has been a
That got nerfed already? Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Fun detected.
damage that is local to a weapon is not converted for this ascendancy. There has been a reminder text added to the bloodline for this. It's just historically, basically what Mark 1 told me is it's always been wrong on weapons and it should never have been described as added damage in the first place.
Yeah.
But it is that way, yeah. So any local added damage on a weapon is actually base damage and not affected by this bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When I pitched this stat to Mark 1, he gave me a very withering look.
Yeah.
Just
especially
scowls.
with like new players. I've seen so many new players trying like Ethereal Knives or Blade Vortex with like adds physical damage and stuff, and I'm like, no. So yeah, I see the confusion. Next up, when it comes to balance, and especially when it comes to like the new coins, there are items like Chains of Command that add an inherent ability to an item that isn't a gem that we can like put a new link on. Are items like that being left a little behind this patch?
I mean, arguably, generally speaking, league mechanics will favor certain builds over others, so I don't see that as like a huge issue. I mean, that said, there is a quirk of how the imbued gems work, which is potentially relevant for skills like, I don't know, Ice Storm from Whispering Ice, where so there's this limitation where you can't put more than one imbued gem into a set of socket links. So like into your chest piece or your boots or your gloves, you can only have one imbued gem at a time.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because the support effect on the imbued gem is a support, as in it is supporting everything in the links. So if you had another active skill in there and you had, say, Fire Pen imbued, both active skills are supported by Fire Pen, not just the one with the imbued skill.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
you can't have multiple imbued, because
counterintuitive.
then you'd be able to have what, 7 6 links in your chest piece? That's a little much. Or six links. Regardless. So if you have an active skill socketed in your chain of commands with a support effect, it would affect the skill from the chain of commands, I think. It's going to affect everything in the support links, at least, or in the link group.
Interesting. And just to make sure, like, just to like double triple check, like if you had like multiple war cries, but they're unlinked entirely, like it's per item that you can have these, right? It's not like per link group.
I think they have to be a link, right?
Item, yes.
Yeah.
So you can have one imbued gem in your boots, one in
Oh,
your gloves, one in your
the
helmet,
limits.
one in your
Yeah.
chest, so on.
Yeah. This French guy wanted me to double check. Cool. Another question I have is Spellslinger, Auto Exert, etc. They reserve mana and cost mana to use. I just want to hear you talk about your philosophy on this and why. Like, is that necessary?
Well, I guess the philosophy is more like should triggered skills cost mana, which we decided yes they should a while back. Now, how does Spellslinger differ to something like Cast on Crit? Because you could argue that the cost on Spellslinger is the reservation.
Yeah.
Well, the cost on Cast on Crit is the trigger condition. So they have, to me, the reservation of Spellslinger is and Auto Exert is sort of like that is the cost you're paying for the easy trigger condition, whereas the mana cost should still be paid on all skills. I mean, you could argue Warcries are a little different because they're not spells, so maybe our trigger philosophy is different for Warcries compared to spells, but precedents like the Eternal Apple, I guess.
Right.
Well, yeah, Warcries I could go either way, but I think for all spells you should be paying the cost for them.
The big cost is also a gem slot, though, right? That is like, especially with how powerful gems are and the new ones, is quite
Spectre
a bit
hype.
harder.
Oh yeah. That reminds me. That was one of the teasers I wanted to show you guys actually before. Now that you remind me, Spectres. So, you guys may not know this, but the PoE filter information came out. Was it yesterday? Now, if I can find it, beautiful. If I cannot, unfortunate. But item filters. And you would see under new items, you can see new skill gems. Cool. New stackable currency. Cool. And then you would meander over here. And you see an interesting category. Corpses. And they have added basically they have added 3 new corpses. And these are corpses that have perfect variants, which means we basically just got 3 new Affliction Spectres. Now, whether these Affliction Spectres will be used for utility, whether they'd be used for DPS, we don't actually know the specifics, obviously. But I'd be very curious. Like, for example, Conjurer of Wrath reminds me heavily of Act 6 boss, if I can remember its name, the Puppet's Mistress. This chick right here. This is what Conjurer of Wrath puts in my head. I don't know why. I feel like there's a minion or there's a mob type that is something of Wrath, and it's this mob type in Act 2. I could be wrong. But yeah, this is what comes to mind when I think Conjurer of Wrath. Astral Lich, no idea. Adherent of Zarok, no idea. Zarok is a temporal being in PoE 2, so probably something time action speed related, you know, probably something like that. Lich, no idea. What about new exceptional support gems? By the way, is it good for pure Spectre that gives more minions? It's good for pure Spectres, it's good for support Spectres, but the question is how it depends on how it works. Because it could either work on the global maximum or it could work on this local gem maximum. And I think realistically, GGG would make you work on the local gem maximum, in which case it is probably it's probably still decent. You put it on your support Spectres and you still gain extra minions, so like you can still have more DPS Spectres, so it's still a DPS boost, but it's not as much of a DPS boost as it would have been otherwise. And vice versa. It would probably be a bit stronger on support Spectres simply because you still get them to, you know, you still get an extra Spectre for every single build, or every single minion build that goes for 5 Spectres, or at least it goes for level 25 gem, you know. So worst case scenario, it's a fucking good gem. Best case scenario, it's insane. And that's, of course, it's a really good gem. Is it TLDR of that? It's very, very good. It's going to be very expensive, so keep that in mind. But it's a very good gem. We need to test how it actually interacts with global maximums and local maximums and all of that. But regardless of how it works, it's good. The question is, how good is it, and how much does it scale with extra levels?
But I guess ideally the damage multiplier and the cooldown and the
Same.
reservation.
I just wonder if it's a case of PoE2 lineage gems where specific bosses will drop specific gems, and if you want to get a specific, like, let's say congregation support as an example, you might have to farm cemetery as a map, or some other necromancer map that has a suckish layout or whatever else, and that boss is the one that can drop the support gem, kind of like how div cards are map locked. It's possible that the support gems are also map locked because these are spread across the atlas essentially, right? So who knows? Kind of wish there were some new specters too. I mean, they said the league mechanic mobs were spectrable, so maybe the chances of them being good though are very, very slim, you know. And with those 3 new corpses, I'm hoping at least one of these guys is a DPS Spectre. That's my hope. One of these guys at least is a DPS Spectre, and I hope they are good in general. But like, what are the odds of it? Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Costs on Spellslinger would all be balanced around that. We did make pretty big buffs to Spellslinger last patch, I believe, when we looked at wands.
Yes, there was. But like, for example, something like Mana Force Arrows doesn't have a reservation; it only has the mana cost. Not that we want one.
But yeah, it's a little bit hard to compare because you're comparing triggered spells to triggered attacks. Not to say that Mana Forged Arrow has a very unique cost. Its cost is spending mana, so that is its cost as opposed to just a straight up reservation. Yeah.
Right. So guard skills when it comes to balance. Obviously, last patch we had the breach hands and stuff, so that was interesting there. But they aren't something that's staying in the game. So especially Molten Shell and Arcane Cloak are very dominant there. Are there any plans to add more new guard skills or rework others?
I feel like historically there was a time in the game where armor was perceived as being very, very weak. And to me, Molten Shells being very strong was almost...
They hit spell slinger? Why do you think so?
Armor has progressively gotten stronger.
Because of the mana cost?
Not to say that it's not like super duper strong, but
yeah,
Molten Shell has had a couple of nerfs, but it's still like, yeah, it's a perk of playing an armor build. But the issue to me is that it's sort of like, if you're playing armor, you should be using Molten Shell. Likewise, Arcane Cloak is similar in the sense that one of the benefits for having, well, the problem with having Mind Over Matter or your entire mana pool is your defenses. You don't get to use as many defensive auras such as Grace and Determination and Discipline and all that. So it to me is like another axis for, this is part of the set of all things that make up a mana defense. Whether or not mana-based defenses or armor-based defenses are stronger than other ones, it's like, I wouldn't really be able to say either way, but it's more the case of, I guess, philosophically, should a guard skill be providing that much percentage of your total defense to your archetype? So, like, arguably what we could do is nerf Arcane Cloak and Molten Shell and then buff up armor and then buff up mana defenses, for example. Not to say that we will. I guess it just hasn't really been on our radar.
I guess a lot of people
Dark
also
Skills
want
is
more
an
like...
interesting design space, though. I'm not like, against making new ones.
Cool. It's also, I know a lot of people want like a dex-based one, like more dex-based card skills.
It's a difficult design space though, because it's hard to come up with one.
I think Bark Skin actually was a pretty decent defensive to that effect, and I felt like they could have done a lot more with Bark Skin than they actually ended up doing, at least after Affliction, because this says you gain 1 bark each second you haven't been hit by an enemy attack recently, which means you're scaling with evasion, and then when you lose it when you are hit, but then it literally just reduces the damage from the hit per bark. I don't know about the more chance, I guess when you're below, sure, but like I feel like this would have been a very good evasion defensive skill if that were the case, but it's a part of the warding ascendancy at this point. So like, you know, I feel like this would have been really good design space for the evasion based guard skill. Or maybe that's just me.
That aren't just.
It costs reservation and also mana. Mana forger only costs mana. I mean, that's fair, but like they explain their philosophy around it. I don't think they hate Spellslinger. They just see it differently, I guess.
You know, shield bubble but bigger. But there's definitely stuff you could do there. It's neat.
Yeah.
I want to think of something now.
Yeah, maybe something with like using your spell suppression or something for your evasion. And speaking of gems, awakened gems are being sunset in favor of exceptional support gems. Can you talk a little bit like about like why the change, what this allows you to do, and also people are really curious if we still have regular GMP.
A regular GMP or awakened
like-
GMP? Just
Yeah, like
clarifying.
is it only awakened GMP now? Like, can we still get level 38 greater multiple projectiles? In
Oh yeah.
4?
So greater volley and greater multiple projectiles are the two greater gems that are still just in the regular drop pool. They haven't changed their location at all. I think we did rename
What?
lesser multiple projectiles.
Why did they rename lesser multiple and not greater? I feel like that's misleading, is it not?
Some multiple projectiles
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
though. Yeah.
are
Although
very happy with that.
awakened GMP is sunsetted, we don't have
Unless
a
lesser is there and they rename
exceptional
greater.
version of greater multiple projectiles.
At all? Interesting.
No. Well, yes. The design philosophy behind the exceptional gems is they're supposed to be like more transformative. So just adding an extra projectile to a support to me doesn't really scream as being like super duper transformative.
There is an exceptional that was projectile, like
Yeah.
additional
Oh,
projectile
yeah.
related though, right?
There are a few exceptional gems related to projectiles. Like I think there's a greater chain and a greater fork, and
Yeah.
there's specifically one related to spell projectiles.
Yeah, there was one that was adding them. I don't remember specifically what it did though. Andrew did the exceptional support gem implementation, so I only have seen issues and know things in passing.
Well, but is greater multi-strike not necessarily transformative, right? It is just more power than the original gem.
Okay, well, yeah, this is where you're getting into a fine line, but greater multi-strike is a little bit more transformative because you are committing yourself to an extra refeed.
Right. Okay.
The math on it is also a little bit weird because you start off from a lower baseline, but your final strike of your combo is stronger compared to the base gem.
Oh.
Greater Spell Echo has a similar thing going on, I think.
Well, can you talk a little bit about
Easy
the
for
design
minions.
philosophy for like changing these and what that allows you to do?
Well, from like a rewards point of view, it allows us to basically give life to a bunch of bosses that may not have very valuable rewards. Not to say that all of these exceptional gems will end up being like 5 divine on trade or anything, but one of the nice things was just spreading it all over the Atlas and basically adding rewards to basically all of the in-game bosses that you do access through the Atlas. Another fun thing about them is you could start from like a lore first design a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Like you'd be like, oh, what is the King in the Mists themes? And it's like, oh, he's got a lot of chaos damage and curses and
The frog one,
That's very
Hex
cool.
Toad.
you can merge them all together and you can make a support out of that.
Speaking of like the
Using the boss to make the
do you
supports.
worry about Maven's loot table being slightly weaker now, and obviously like the witnessing bosses don't have that in the same way, or are you happy with where she is now?
So from the witnessing boss's point of view, there are two very good rewards there that are sort of novel to that. So for example, we got rid of cartographer's chisels, but Maven chisels still exist. So now Maven chisels are relatively more valuable in my opinion, because previously that 20% quantity was something you applied from chisels. Now it is inherent to your map completion.
Yeah.
But you can also get a Maven chisel on top. So Maven chisels, in my opinion, will be relatively more valuable for that reason.
That's
The
true.
other thing is the new astrolabes are 100% drop chance from all the memory bosses, but they will also, once you have the originator Voidstone for killing all of the incarnation bosses, that will allow astrolabes to drop from final map bosses in the Atlas. So Maven becomes relatively more valuable for farming astrolabes because she adds more final map bosses. As opposed to Maven herself, I will say that, in my opinion, Maven has the most powerful exceptional support gem on her. Maybe the rarest as well, I think.
Holy.
Maybe I'm wrong and I'm about to get Twitch chat mad at me, but we did keep Awakened, Empower, Enlighten, and Enhance, right?
Yep.
You did.
So those were the 3
I think those are the only.
Awakened gems that we kept.
Like,
Yeah.
Are they still called Awakened?
Yep.
I think. Yeah, they're the only gems left that are called Awakened.
Very cool.
Still.
I wonder what
also,
Maven drops now.
that's that done on that topic. So obviously,
We-
I only found out.
We can't data mine loot tables, right? This is not something that can be data mined, I believe, I think. So this is something we're going to have to literally just kill Maven until somebody drops something. It's gonna be fun, I think.
Minutes before this podcast that we get.
But it says the rarest, or one of the rarest. Holy. Surely it's not like Enlighten or something, right? It has to actually be insane and related to Maven. Maybe related to her beams?
to reveal
Maybe?
Aquarian. So maybe we do that now.
Sure.
Yeah, so I have 4 slides here with I'm going to full screen that to make it easier for people to read so they won't see us with this. I don't know if you guys can bring up what I'm showing, but I'll be showing like the first image of Royal Aquarian now.
Yeah. We can sort of see it. It's
a bit
just
hard to read.
very hard to read from.
It's a little hard for me to read too. I wonder if I can bring it up somewhere else. Double checking that Twitch chat can see this. Hoping they
I mean, Discord has the zoom in on the
It's pretty
stream.
good. So we
in now.
have for the first node, Baruzo's Ambition, Kilowaba's Bluster, Maw of Conquest, Victoria's Influence, and Brass Dome. This is
This
my
is the first time seeing these as well. Andrew set these up.
Same for
Well,
me.
these ones I looked at last week, but the ones before that I probably haven't looked at in months, so they'll be new to me again as well.
Brass Dome.
Baruzo's just giving 20% move speed is pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good
Now,
starter.
An interesting thing about Reliquarian Ascendancy is it has the same, you could call it a problem, but it's like the same asymmetry that Ascendant has, where you're not really getting much for your normal Labyrinth. You're getting 2 passive skill points, that's all. But I tried to have the armor ones be a little bit more powerful, I think, so that once you get to your Crawl Lab, you kind of get a little bit of a power spike. I mean, Varuso's, yeah, that looks juicy for leveling.
Yeah, Brass Dome too.
20% MS. I mean, Brass Dome. If you're going full armor, then yes, but like removes all ES is kind of a.
See, I'm gonna open slide.
It's like, why?
Because we have all 4
You know?
of them.
Wow, that's a lot of movement speed so far. Another
More
10%.
movement speed. Terminus Est and gain a frenzy charge on critical strike. 70 and Widow Hill is 75%. That was teased at 100, I think,
Yeah.
right?
No +1 arrows, sorry.
Yeah. Chaos Feast. Strike.
This could actually be decent on
I'm so
totem
excited for
builds.
Being able to change Reliquarian every single
2
week.
additional projectiles if you've used the
That is very
movement
cool.
skill recently.
Yeah, makes me very nervous as well because all the other Ascendancies in the game have had years and years of iteration, and then this one we're basically saying, oh, we'll throw it in the bin every league and we'll see where it lands.
No
Falcon
fine
Relics.
tuning, just
Hey.
regular tuning every league.
That's very cool. Okay, let's show the third one. The top one. Spells fire 2 additional projectiles. Cannot continue after colliding.
I do see this being something somebody will probably build around, just the fact that you can have spell impale on your ascendancy. I think that is actually pretty decent
Not just teaching,
for
very cool.
specific builds.
3 totems. Hello. Oh, interesting. Really interesting. Wow. I think
This is
Tatantiel is
another
already
thing.
cooking.
Like we can take
I don't think Cardigan's authority is
maybe people
good.
don't really use too much in the end game because they don't come with other stats they want, or they're on a base they don't really want to use, and we can just throw their cool signature stat here, and now suddenly that's much more accessible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the original concerns with rolling Reliquarian or Scavenger into core was that it would sort of take away from the unique if you could get that special unique effect on the Ascendancy.
Yeah.
But by having it that it rotates every league, I think we avoid that problem, which was part of the reason why we want to try the rotation.
That is very cool. See, the last one, the one with the belt and everything. Garden of Truth.
Garden of Truth is really strong if you go for the.
Not this patch.
Sorry.
Not this patch.
If you could get double leech, i.e., life and ES leech, to be very, very strong, assuming you have a decent ES pool and decent life pool. Very, very good defensive layer, potentially.
Maybe next patch.
This could have honestly just made fugitive elements free, in my opinion. I think that would have been better, but I guess that would have been too strong.
Fear of Fury.
I think if I play Witch Start, I go Freezing Pulse until I get SRS until Absolution. I mean, that's what most people do. I do Rolling Magma till SRS, and then I use SRS even before people typically switch into it, and I just use SRS until Absolution, then Absolution until Dumblow, and then Dumblow is where I sit.
Wow.
I had to get that one nerfed, and apparently that's like bonkers and ruthless.
I believe it. Yeah.
I believe it. Wow.
Can you imagine the ruthless gamers PoBing because they finally think they're about to get something insane?
That's a spooky stat. It's a cool
Ain't no
stat. though.
armor from body armor.
Yeah, it's very good with those. Oh, I can't remember the name. The Delirium boots.
Yeah, Beacon of Madness.
Yeah.
Oh, true. Tremendous. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for letting us share that. That was very neat. Cool. I'm so excited for the fact that it's like a rotating ascendancy. I do love that. It'll be something a little bit fresh, like every league.
I mean, on sort of a broader level, I think one of Path of Exile's biggest strengths is how many modular systems we have that we can iterate on every expansion. You know, like we have Bloodlines, we have Transfigured Gems, we have, now Reliquarian changes every single time. We have tons and tons of systems like that, so that we have the new content we add, and then we can also just iterate on all these systems a little bit, and that helps have more new exciting stuff for all the different kinds of players who might be coming back.
Right. Yeah. No, I even have another question about that later. Okay, so some more generic topics. League rewards are moving more to leagues. And I mentioned this at start, but we have things like fossils, clusters, abyssals are mostly removed from non-league content, right? It's like fossils are only found in Delve. Are resonators and fossils, are the drop rate buffed to compensate on that? Because, for example, Legion was a big source of fossils for a lot of us.
Have we? Yeah. So at the moment, we're just stripping fossils from everywhere. We weren't really compensating any of the rewards. We were just like, fossils should be exclusive to Delve. So I guess what happens when you do strip out fossils from Legion is all the other rewards can become more common as a result. So whether or not those other rewards are more valuable than fossils, it's like, not sure.
Right, I'm just concerned about 20 to 40 kills per dense fossil.
Well, the primary goal was to make some of these mechanics that have had their rewards diluted.
Any Reaper build cooking for this league? Maybe Scion's New Ascendancy? What would Scion's New Ascendancy provide the Reaper? The biggest thing would be Mata's teaching. But like, Reaper isn't great with crits. It's better with bleed. Can probably work with crits, but I haven't cooked with Reaper. Mostly because of how limiting of a gem it is, simply because you can have other supports, minions like Spectres and all that. So I haven't done any Reaper cooking, no.
Like, a common complaint that I've had and that I've seen a lot of people in the community have is that delving doesn't really feel worth the time. unless you're at like giga deep depths, and even then, I've seen people say it doesn't feel worth the time.
Surely I delve this league,
so-
right?
If a pristine fossil is worth 8C each, isn't that going to help address that?
Yeah, it will a little bit, but it does.
Surely
also
I delve, right?
I'm being kind of tongue in cheek. Like I can see the other side of this, where particularly people playing in solo self-found might find it a little frustrating to farm up enough fossils to do their crafts. So like, I am also fine with taking an eye towards delve and potentially,
Yeah.
you know, buffing some of the rooms that, you know, taking some of the rooms nobody will ever bother with and replacing them with better ones, buffing some of the rooms. I just don't know how much of that we have time for in the next 3 days.
Right. I guess the primary concern is Delve's power compared to essences and other things, right? Like if the and recombinators and still the Genesis tree, even though it can't make weapons, if it's like super far behind and it's not worth for a player at all to delve at, let's say 150 to 300, which is what most like average players aren't really getting past 300. That is a concern.
I'd be surprised if delve isn't significantly more valuable to do in 328 though.
Yeah, I also wouldn't be against increasing the number of fossils you get from delve
Yeah.
at the same time.
Like that is something that we can do relatively quickly. So we'll
Okay,
probably discuss that directly after this.
Nice.
And they did buff it, if I remember correctly.
What about so everything like fossil incubators and delirium orbs are gone, right?
I'm not actually sure about that one. I'll
Yeah.
need to check after this, to be honest.
And then
In your initial question, you said cluster and abyss jewels. I mean, that is something maybe we'd eventually want to do, but they haven't gotten as extensive
Okay.
a treatment in this regard as fossils.
Yeah, I think we only removed it from King's March mapping and Tujin, and the primary reason for that is no, they haven't actually been removed at all. I think they were removed from Tujin, but from King's March mapping, I think we level capped them at 83 because we want item level 84 abyss jewels to sorry, not abyss jewels,
Cluster.
delirium cluster jewels to only be coming from the appropriate delirium content. Feels very cheap to be getting like an insanely valuable
Yeah, I
jewel
agree.
from like
What do I think about the new exemplar? I think number wise, if you can use it for its intended purpose, it's really strong. I think the intended purpose is not going to be that popular, in that I don't think it's going to be easy to crit that often to maximize your uptime on it. So depending on the build, for something like Law of the Wilds, which is like someone woos when you crit, you obviously want to have crit chance for that. So for like a build like that, it's going to be a big use of exemplar support because they want to crit regardless. So this is just free. But on the flip side, for the average minion build, they wouldn't use it much, no. That being said, no, it wouldn't be used much now. I was going to say Spectres, and yeah, it can be used with Spectres because beta bind point has increased crit chance for the player per Spectre. I think it goes up to 100%, and with the new maximum number of minion gem, you can get more Spectres than ever before, so you could potentially get even more spell crits than before. And if you can hit frequently enough, then that in theory would be enough to get you to the point where you can fully utilize exemplar support. But I don't know that all of that is going to be worth the time, simply because that means you would actually need to spend time, you know, working on your crits, or at least figuring out what skills you can effectively use to proc your crits.
a King's March shipping or
Because it's only for the past 4 seconds, right? It says you have to crit in the past, like recently. So you have to crit 5 times every 4 seconds, something like that, right? Was it? It was 5 times. I don't fully remember.
mapping window.
And
Yeah.
this is something that I feel really strongly on, that it's incredibly important to the health of the game's economy to have special rewards from certain mechanics be sequestered to those mechanics where possible. That is at odds with making new things feel rewarding and cool, right? So like you have to balance that, and it's really easy to just take stuff people already want, put it in the new thing, there you go. But that's a bit of a cop out, and it's a hard thing to do, but it should be the case that every mechanic that is added has some distinct and new and cool thing that it can be specialized at. So
TLI does
the
this
reason this is important is because
decently
of what we saw in
well,
something like Affliction League, for instance, where you had maps that were printing
but
noodles and
the kind of slight problem with this approach is if something from a league mechanic is less desirable, it just means that league mechanic is not worth doing and you shouldn't be engaging with it whatsoever. And that is never a fun place for a particular league mechanic to be at.
noodles of loot. But fossils were still worth something in Affliction League because you couldn't use the broken overpowered strat to print them. So the more little corners of the game you have like that, where they have something that they specialize in that you can't get from another source, or at least you can't easily get from another source, because technically at that time you could get fossils elsewhere, just not in as much bulk. The more safe the economy is against, mistakes on our part. It's like if you had an ecology where, all you grew and ate was rice and absolutely nothing else, and then suddenly there's a horrible disease that wipes out all the rice. Now everybody dies. But if you have multiple kinds of crops, you're more resistant to that.
Yeah. No, I mean that's really good to hear in my opinion. Even as somebody who does prefer SSF, I do prefer when things are not homogenized. So that's really good. But that makes me
Bro,
want to
it's
ask about Sanctum,
right.
because Sanctum is probably the mechanic
That's what
that, the
Arcade
least
took from
stands out.
it.
It doesn't really have its own rewards, except it does have the uniques at the end. But Sanctum's main place in the game right now is a currency farm. It's been targeted a lot. Is that something you guys are discussing, like giving Sanctum its own things that is a little bit more special?
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to sound like I'm deflecting the question, but I am going to pop out for 2 minutes and I'll be back.
He's running, guys. I asked about Sanctum and he ran. That's all good.
I will handle that one. Sanctum, I agree with you.
He's facing Sanctum right now.
I was in QA at the time when Sanctum was being developed. And this was actually a concern that I raised then. I don't like how one-dimensional the reward structure of Sanctum is.
Yeah.
Partially for this reason, which, as I said, I've always felt strongly about. Like, you need to have sequestered corners of the economy that do different things. But also it becomes incredibly easy to judge the reward output of Sanctum, right?
Yeah.
Like, on the player side, you can get an incredibly clear picture of Sanctum creates this much currency per hour on average, and then that makes it really hard to actually balance Sanctum in a way that's okay for the broader economy, because you have to land it super precisely on the exact amount of currency per hour that players will deem acceptable in order to run the content.
Yeah.
Whereas with other things that have more that have a reward that might be more valuable one league and less valuable in other league, and might be more valuable to some players and less valuable to other players, you have a little more leeway there. You have a little more obscurity, so to speak.
So does that mean that you want to give it its own unique thing that is new? Because that we haven't seen that before, right? We haven't really seen an old mechanic. We had the breach rework, but we haven't seen an old mechanic suddenly get something new that is very special. That usually does come during its actual league.
I can't really unilaterally say that we're going to make that change.
Oh,
so,
sure.
All I can speak to is what I would prefer.
Of course.
And yes, if I had,
I hate Sanctum. They can't nerf it if they can nerf it if they want. Buff harvest more. I mean, you won't catch me running Sanctum. I've tried a number of times. Maybe it's just because I haven't been on a specialized Sanctum build and stuff like that. But miss me with Sanctum, yo.
Say we're doing this, we're doing that, then I would definitely rework Sanctum to have something cooler and more unique and special that it gives as a reward, while also still trying to aim to make it more competitive as a mechanic. I don't really like the place that Sanctum sits in right now, where a lot of people view it as not really worth running. Or if we were to buff the rewards a bunch, everybody starts viewing it as this is the only viable strategy early on.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying with the whole, when it rewards just raw pure currency and nothing else, it kind of sits on that nice edge. It's either it's perceived as this busted OP thing that you have to do, or it's not worth doing at all, don't bother. It's very hard to land on the middle there.
It was really interesting during the past few leagues because so many people were in the camp of it's not worth doing at all, don't bother, which meant that it actually was super worth doing because the tomes were free, right? They were just 1C or maybe even 0.5C. So it did balance itself out a little bit that way. I'm a huge Sanctum enjoyer, so
there is a floor. Yeah, absolutely. It'll be self-correcting to some degree with the economy, but yeah, regardless.
Cool. Speaking of the economy, we have instant trading, currency auction house. I have some questions about that. First, are you
Actually, before we do that, I think this is a decent place to pause because I do have to end stream here and go edit videos and do all of the other stuff that I paused to stream. But like, I'm very happy I actually was able to stream. But I will try to be back tomorrow, you know, finish the interview. I think I still have one more interview to react to, unironically, which is I haven't watched Destin's interview yet. I should, and I want to. I hate you to think tomorrow, surely, right? I think tomorrow I'll actually be able to stream longer because then I wouldn't have any videos on my plate that I'll be working on. So I should, maybe. We'll see. Can't make any promises, but yeah. We're going to finish this video and then we'll be live on Friday as well before league starts, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes before league start. We'll prepare all the other things, the loot filter, all the things I typically prepare on launch day, and we'll go from there. But yeah, all right, guys, I'm gonna be back tomorrow. Thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate it. Till tomorrow. Have a good night.